Hello YouTube, this is Scrap to Cast. Tonight's video, I'm actually going to scrap out a older CRT television set. This television was manufactured April 2001, so it's a little over 20 years old. You can tell it's a pretty basic television because on the back right here, where the antenna input is, there's no RCA connectors, so you can't hook up any modern devices to this. So anything with like an RF adapter, you could hook into it like an original Nintendo or Sega Genesis. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty much a basic TV. I really don't expect there to be much copper in this. There'll be a fair amount of aluminum, especially the heat sinks. But there will be a yoke in there and a degaussing cable. The degaussing cable usually is copper, but I have my doubts. I honestly think it's going to be very thin, and it's going to be aluminum wire instead. The copper yoke will probably be copper. I've never really seen an aluminum one out of all the televisions that I've ever scrapped. This is probably number 50 or 60 if I really had to guess. It's not the most interesting video, but if you're new to scrapping and you want to get free copper, I'm all for that free copper. This is pretty much where I get most of my copper from, is these televisions. So I've got the tripod set up on the desk, and you're going to see a side view of the entire process from start to finish, and I'll show you what the valuable pieces are. We'll do a weigh-in, and we'll have a bonus melt at the end of the video. So hang tight, and I'll get you set up on the other tripod. Okay, first thing you're going to need is a Phillips head screwdriver. There's usually screws at the corners, usually one in the middle, one up here, sometimes in the middle here, but there's not one there. And then there's one in here, and that's pretty much attached to the circuit board. So just pull all the screws out first. I like the fact that this swivels like this, so it'll be a lot easier to move this around if I have to. But sorry, I don't have the drill set up. I can't find the bit for the drill right there. So I got to do it the old-fashioned way. But yeah, once you get all the screws out, I mean, you pull the cover off, be able to see all the guts inside here. There you go. That one. Sorry if I'm in the way of the camera. And I'm not really too sure if you actually get. Oh, what am I doing? I'll just swivel it. I can actually see it. But yeah, once I get better equipment and I get a following of subscribers, you know, I'll start upgrading a lot of my tools. But you pretty much just could do this with hand tools. I mean, you're going to see me do it with hand tools. So this should, oh, got one here. I wish the screen was flat so it didn't wobble like that, but, you know, what do you expect for the side of the road? So there we go. Let's set that aside. So pretty much, just as I suspected, a small copper yoke, a very tiny circuit board. I've actually never seen one that small before inside a television. So this is pretty small. This slides right off usually. Sometimes there'll be tabs here at the bottom that you have to push in on each side, but this just slid right off. And pretty much the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and clip this here. I always clip those first. There's rumors that there could be power still stored in these, but for something that's probably never been plugged in for 3 or 4 years, you know, I highly doubt there's going to be any power stored in any kind of capacitor or inside the tube or whatnot. So, I mean, I don't really worry about that. What I'm doing now is I'm clipping all the wires off the board just to make it a little easier for me. I try to get as much of the wire as I can. It will add value over time. It adds up. And once I get all these clipped off, I can get the circuit board out of the picture. And then I'll point out the parts of the board which has the most value. There we go. It should come loose. There we go. So really not worth cracking those open. That's steel junk. That right there is aluminum. If you want to spend the time to get it off, you have to unscrew these here, or you could break the board and just rip it off, but you're still gonna have to remove those. unless it's going to be called dirty copper if you leave that attached. But if you want clean aluminum price, going to the scrapyard, if you're not going to melt, but if you're going to go to the scrapyard with this stuff, that's definitely clean sheet aluminum there. There's a little copper wrapped around this transformer here. These transformers can be pretty easy to break open. You can just smash with a hammer. The shielding around it will come off, and then you can start peeling it apart. But I don't usually do that unless it's a rather large transformer. And they're hard to get off the board too. You usually have to use a pair of channel locks and just break it right off. But I'm just going to set the board aside. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Oh, and one more thing. There's a coil here that's easy to get copper from. In here there's a relay. See if I can actually get it open. There we go. They just break open, they're hollow. There's a spool of copper here, and then this contact here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, there's a little piece of silver right there, and there's a little piece of silver on this one too. And these, usually they're copper, but sometimes when you melt them, they show a little bit of brass in the final product. So I kind of keep those separate from my copper, and I'll just mix them in with my brass. But I will cut these little contacts off, and I have a little jar where I save them up, and eventually I'll process them and you know, with chemicals, and then I'll get the actual silver out of them. But literally I'm going to need like a couple pounds of them where it actually is going to be worth it, especially with the cost of the chemicals. So pretty much what I do with this, I start clipping all the zip ties, make things a little easier for me, but I'm going to actually scrap this out completely, you know, stripping the wires and so forth. I usually toss the trash inside the case because I'm going to put the cover back on after I'm done scrapping it. So we'll just get rid of all of these. There we go. We clip this. I leave the speakers in. There's really no value with the speakers at all for me. You get a little bit of steel out of them. Getting the copper out of it, pretty impossible. I've never really found a good video on YouTube that shows, you know, an easy way of doing it. So this right here, this is the degauzing cable that I was talking about. Yep, it's pretty thin, but it might be copper. It seems like it's got some weight to it. If it was an aluminum one, it wouldn't really weigh anything. It would be very light in your hands, and I'm pretty sure this is real copper, but I might be wrong because now I'm starting to really feel it. And I'll do a quick test on the camera. So, tangled up a little bit here. I usually clip these right off. There's a spring right down there in the corner. And you can see it, there's a spring right there. Get the circle out of the way. Usually these are copper, but I don't think this is. I'm going to cut it off right here. Yeah, I don't think I have a magnet. Oh, I do have a magnet. See if it'll stick. Well, actually, it might be copper, so I'll check it later. Let's see, where did I just put my tools? I always lose them. There they are. Okay, so I usually cut these wires off at this piece first, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the copper yoke off. Cut all those off. I mean, you can be as efficient with this as you want, or you can take your sweet time with it, or you can just quickly scrap it out and leave pieces on it. I tend to get everything because I'm one of those guys that I'm, you know, kind of compulsive when I do stuff like this. I want to get every little penny that I can off of it. But, you know, it's my time. I want to make sure I'm getting my money's worth. So once you clip all the wires off, I usually get them out of the picture. This, you pretty much just lift up on this and it'll pop right off. It's just a very low-grade circuit board. Really nothing of value on here at all. So this goes in my low-grade circuit board pile, and I don't take anything off of that. I just leave it as is. These pieces right here, you could usually unscrew them. There is I guess you would call it a hose clamp. There's like a hose clamp around here, and then there's one at the bottom. I just need a Phillips head to get that off. Okay. Sometimes these are stainless steel. This one, oh, that screw is definitely steel, so we're going to get that out of there. But stainless steel, it might be. It's got a little bit of resistance to it. Not much, but that might be stainless steel. So then these will be able to come off now. If they don't come off, here's the easy way. Get in there and clip it. There it comes right off. And looks like I'm going to have to do the same to all of these. I really wish this TV wouldn't move around like it is. There we go. Clip them all off. Break them, do whatever you got to do. There we go. Throw it right in the case. It's going to the recycling center or the service station anyways. And then we got the other one down here. Pull this off. It's pretty bendable, so you can bend them and pull them off like that. This one I think is probably stainless. Yeah, that's stainless. Absolutely, that's stainless. Not one bit of resistance on that. So the next thing I normally do is I pull these off like this. And the reason being is that's pretty much what's holding this in place. So once you get it in there, twist it. This is in the way, so I'm going to clip this off. There's little tabs right here. You can't really see them, but I'm going to break them right off. At least the easy ones. You don't want to break this tube. That's the goal and why I'm actually taking this little extra time to do this. You don't want to break that tube. It's not healthy for you, breathing that kind of stuff in. See if I can get this off. I wouldn't recommend looking over it too, especially if you're using something to cut around it. There you go. And if you do, at least wear eye protection and a respirator. But here's our copper yoke. These are very easy to take apart. I'm probably not even going to smash this one. Normally what I do is I clip the wires, get this little circuit board thing off, and then I break this apart. I might do that on live. But pretty much we got our power cord here. A little bit of wire. And this is pretty much scrapped out. I mean, you can take the speakers out if you want. You take these screws and steel anchors if you want, but you may as well just put the cover back on. There we go. You don't need to put all the screws in. I usually just do the 4 corners. There we go. It's just to keep it in one piece, you know. That's 2 and 3 and 4. That one doesn't want to go in. Up there it goes. And then you can just pick it up normal and bring it to wherever you got to bring it to. Either a transfer station, recycle center, if they take it. If you have to pay to get rid of them, don't pick them up off the side of the road. You know, a lot of people will throw them in dumpsters, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's illegal, and it's not worth the heavy fines that you'll get for getting caught doing it. So, but pretty much here's what was in that TV that's of any value to me. Got some wire here. This piece I have to check, see if it's actually copper or not. It looks like aluminum to me, honestly. Yeah, that's aluminum. I can see the silver on the cut mark. So this is just silver, aluminum wire. These wires here that you cut off from the tube, there's a very thick layer of plastic underneath this plastic, and the strand is very small. I don't even scrap these. I just put it in my junk wire, low grade wire, and I don't even bother running it through my machine. For the length that it is, it's not even worth it, and there's a very, very, very thin strand inside there. So it's really not worth doing. The power cord, I will take this apart. I'll cut off the plug end right here, add that to my my copper pile, my brass pile, I'm sorry. And the way I usually just break these apart and get the brass off of them, I just twist it. Should wear gloves for this. A lot of guys, they just cut them off, but I don't like cutting them off. You'll see why. Oh, it actually broke off, so it doesn't really matter at this point. But usually if I'm really good at this, if I had this in the vise, I could pull the whole thing out. Yeah, this one I'm going to be able to do. You can see the actual copper that comes out. And then I usually just throw these away. But since there's a little piece of brass stuck in there and a little bit of copper wire, I throw it in my tin steel or sheet metal steel. They'll take it. So, but pretty much just twist this off and I cut it off. And that will go in my copper pile to melt. And then we got our brass here, which we'll just set that aside here. But most of these wires, wires like this thicker wire, just do a quick inspection. It's also got one of those plastic shrouds around it underneath the red plastic, so that I'm not going to strip. They're too thin and they're not worth stripping. But the only ones I'm really going to strip is the degaussing cable, which I'm 99% positive this is aluminum. And you can tell right now just by cutting into it. I don't know if you can see that, but that is actually copper. So we'll actually strip this in the wire stripping machine. And I usually cut them off right around here. Underneath here, this big fat part, it's mostly plastic, wrapped around and looped twice. And you can see how thick it is, how thick this is versus how much copper is in there. You can just throw this in your low-grade wire. And this I'm not even going to bother stripping. So pretty much the only thing I'm going to strip is this and this power cord here. Now this power cord, those wires, they're long enough. This is probably about a 5 or 6 foot long cord. So it is worth actually scrapping it and stripping it down. You know, when you get like 12-inch pieces or 6-inch pieces of wire, I mean, unless they're heavy, thick gauge wire, you know, then it would be worth scrapping them and stripping them down completely for the copper. But something like this, just throw it in your low-grade insulated copper bin and just, you know, just sell it to the scrapyard. You'll make a couple dollars from that. I mean, I've literally got a whole box full of it over there that's probably worth maybe $10, which, you know, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're just cutting wires like I just did, you know, it adds up. So, and it's free money right off the side of the road, and it definitely adds up. So normally on something like this, I'll cut this piece off because it's just in the way. I'm not going to bother stripping down 4 inches of wire on each piece, so I'll just throw that in low grade. And then we've pretty much got 2 different positive and negative in there. I mean, if I want to strip this down a little further, I can just cut it down the middle here and then just peel it apart. So like this will come off. And this is pretty much the steps that I do when I'm actually scrapping, you know, something completely down. So now this wire is all set to run through the stripping machine. And then the other one, oh, that's the degaussing cable. And the other one I might be able to pull through. And if not, no, I'll be able to get that. Just find the edge of it here. Once you get it and you get it started, it's easy. Yeah, there it is. So that ripped off, but now we've got the actual wire. Let's pull this apart. This goes in plastic recycling, which is currently my floor. This piece also in recycling. This I'm going to strip. This I'm going to strip. And then this I'm going to run through the wire stripping machine as well. I'm actually going to bring the machine and put it on the desk here. So we'll bring you back in about 1 minute. Okay, and we're back. So this is the wire stripping machine I bought off of Amazon. I'm not paid by them to advertise, so I switched the plate over so there won't be any advertising of what this machine is. If you are interested in getting a machine, this particular machine from the person that I got it from on Amazon, just send me a comment and reach out to me, give me an email address, and I'll tell you where I got it. So it's a DC motor, it's very quiet. You can hear it pretty not that bad. I think this is already set to the depth. This is your knob here to set the depth. So we'll go ahead and throw it through, and there it goes. It just pulls it right out of my hand. You should wear gloves when you do something like this, just in case if there's a little cut somewhere in the wire, it'll get you in the finger. And there's a shield that goes across here. But pretty much, it scores it completely down the middle. Usually you have like a pair of pliers just to pull the copper wire out, just to get this off. I actually have some electrical strippers that'll cut the end off, and then I can just pull it out like that, but you can see that it just peels right apart. I mean, you know, that's totally worth it for me. It's totally worth stripping wire, you know, especially wire that's about 5 feet long or more. You know, that was pretty simple. That was probably about 10 seconds worth of work right there. You know, if I was doing it with the old way with the razor knife, then, you know, that would have took me maybe 30, 40 seconds if I was good at it. But let's run this other piece through. We already know it's set perfectly. It's got rollers in here. Sometimes it will roll off, so that's why I'm putting downward pressure on it. Always keep some kind of pressure on it. Don't let it go by itself, because it'll spin up off this roller here, and then you're going to have to run it through again. And I always shut it off. I don't let the motor run for no reason. So this is already scored down the middle. You just go ahead and peel it apart. Actually, I can do it the easy way. Got that. There we go. Now we can actually see it. Oh, I didn't get it. Oh. These really aren't the right pliers for this. I actually didn't even plan on scrapping this TV tonight, but I said, you know what, I'm going to do another video this week. So I'll just peel it apart. There we go. Pull it right off. Might have to run it through again for that. No. I got it. Sometimes it spins off. Yeah, sometimes that happens. You know. I'm not even going to waste my time with that. I could cut it off and just run it through again. That little piece, but yeah, it's almost there. This is some of the annoyances when you do stuff like this, especially live on video. So there's the copper. That was from the power cable. I mean, I don't know how much it weighs right now, but I will get a final weigh-in after the video. But, you know, that was just off a 5-foot power cable. So now we got the degaussing wire here. Now, this is wrapped, one layer of electrical tape, and then about every 12 inches there's one piece wrapped around one time. So I'm going to set the blade depth a little, well, it's a little thicker, so I'm actually going to back off the blade depth a little bit. And what I normally do when I'm testing, you know, to get the blade height, instead of running the wire all the way through, I'll cut off a small piece, just like that. And then this way here, I'll know if it needs to be adjusted or not. I don't have to run the whole cable through again. So let's just try this. There we go. I made a small score. I'm going to have to make this a lot deeper. There we go. And I can adjust it as it's running. You can hear it cutting into it. I went a little too deep, but it won't be that bad. You really should wear gloves when you do this. That's going to force it through. That was the thick end there at the end. It just pretty much crushed it, but you can see all the copper in there. That's real copper. This is #1 copper. Well, when it's melted down, there's really nothing to this except, you know, you got to get the tape off first. That's the hardest part, but you get all the strands in one spot, and you pull, and then as long as it didn't cut the wire too badly, which I think it did, but, you know, it's going to flake off and stuff. Actually, I don't even think it cut all the way through, honestly. Yeah, it didn't even cut all the way through. It did in certain sections. You can see in certain sections that it did. But once you get it. It's hot as hell in this shop too. I got the air conditioner going, but you know, I have a face mask on. I just don't want people seeing who I look like, you know, at least right now. Wait till I'm famous. Yeah, I'm gonna have to run it through a couple times just to get it correct, so I'm gonna do that off camera and I'll bring it back. Well, I learned a valuable lesson. For degaussing cables, you don't want to use an electric wire stripper. The reason being is the adhesive from the electrical tape, it actually will bind up the cutting guide that's in there. I saw some electrical tape sticking all over it pretty much. And yeah, I'm not going to use it for degaussing cables. Another way you could do it is just lay it out on the desk here, put some pressure on it with one hand wearing gloves, and then just use a razor knife and go over once. And then If you could do it all the way around the degauzing cable, you can actually just pull it right off, and all the strands will be intact. You can see here that I had to cut it in a few different pieces, and it just shaved it pretty much. Little strands here and there. I'm actually going to have to collect this and put it inside a bin of some sorts. But yeah, so we're actually getting a small pile of copper here from that television. We still got the yoke that we're going to cut down. So we'll go ahead and do that in about 2 minutes. Okay, we got that copper in a bin now, so it's not going anywhere. Last part of the scrap bin video, we're actually going to take this yoke apart. Like I said, I'd normally smash it with a hammer, but it's got some really flexible plastic on here. I don't think it's really going to do much good. Plus, you're going to get this piece of iron here that goes all the way around. It's just going to break into a million pieces, and then it's going to be a pain in the butt to clean up. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to clip these little wires off and get this little circuit board off of here. And it'll just make it easier when this piece is removed. There's some tabs right there, but of course it's going to be a pain in the butt, so I'm just going to break it right here. It's actually riveted through. Always wear eye protection when you do this. I'm actually going to put my glasses on now, just because pieces will want to fly off. So this right here is just low grade. Throw it in your low grade pile. And there's not one on the other side, so that's a plus. Pretty much holding this on, holding these pieces of iron together. I mean, there's no seam at the bottom, but you can still crack these apart. There's a little clip right here. Normally the way I do it is I got my little chisel. I actually made this. This was one of 4 pieces. It was a pick set from Harbor Freight Tools. I think it was $1.99 for all 4. I shaved it down into like a chisel. So this way here I can get into these little pieces like here and just pry them off. And then there you go. And then we'll do the same on this side. I always put my finger over it just so it doesn't fly off. It is a spring. It's got spring tension, so it will try to fly off. And then the next thing I do, I try to get a screwdriver in here and see if I can do it on the table. I try to get a screwdriver in the seam. Once I get it in there, I twist back and forth and get it in there, and then it'll pop right off. Just like that. Same to the other side. So, and normally what I do with these, you can see the adhesive that's holding this together. Very hazardous to melt. I try to break off as much as I possibly can from this. See if I can get it from this side and just peel most of it off. There you go. You know, there's that much less I'm actually going to have to, you know, melt down. I got most of it actually, so that's a plus. That little piece right there, I'm not going to worry. That's not too much. And then this tape here, we'll just peel this off. Get that out of the way. And then I'll show you the easy way that I take this apart. Some guys, they'll spend 5 minutes there unraveling this thing like this. Not worth it. You know, get an angle grinder with a cutoff disc, go right across the middle here, and then you can just peel it back and pull it off. And I'll show you real quick after I'm done taking the rest of this apart. So just get this crap off of here. There you go. This one's actually pretty easy. I've seen them before where they're covered completely with that lacquer stuff, so that was actually pretty easy to do on this one here. Like I said, it's an older, cheaper TV, so you know, they're not going to go to any special trouble to make it better, you know, especially if you could buy a mid-range model or, you know, top-of-the-line model like a Sony. And I will say this, people can challenge me all they want about it, but Sony televisions, the CRT televisions that Sony made, they're some of the best TVs to yield a lot of copper. I remember I think it was a 27-inch TV, and I got 3.5 pounds of copper from it, which is usually unheard of. So, but this right here, I'm going to try to snap this apart. Maybe get my screwdriver in there and kind of pry it off. I should wear gloves for this. I don't know where my gloves are. I just spent 10 minutes looking for them. And I want to get this video done tonight. So, pretty much now it's broken apart. Pull it out. There's your plastic. Right on the recycling bin, which is on the floor. Peel the tape off. And this is pretty much ready to melt as is. You usually just squeeze them together so I can put more in the crucible of these. There we go. Do that one. Clean up some of the junk that's on it. Be much less hazardous stuff to melt or burn off into the atmosphere, or, you know, in my warehouse. Get that tape off. That's pretty much ready to melt, and we'll throw that in the bin. So I'll bring it back in a minute. We'll put the tripod on the other bench over there that's full of crap, and I'll show you just how quickly I cut this off. Thank you very much for watching. Okay, and we're back. Pretty much, I lied. I actually don't use angle grinder. I use a cutoff tool. This is a Harbor Freight 3-inch electric cutoff tool. Honestly, it's really cheaply made. It shorts out all the time. It's got a circuit breaker inside, and this is always popping out at me, and I'm always having to reset it. So, but it works for something like this really quick, actually. So let's put this in here. Usually clamp down like that, and then pretty much what I'm going to do, just going to go right across like this. Oh, see, it's not even plugged in. There we go. Okay, pull this off. Then you can clearly see that you can pull this right off, just like that. Might be a few strands left over, but that's it, you know. And it keeps all in one piece too, so it doesn't go everywhere. So let's put that on the bench. We'll do the last one. I always do it this way out. Doing it this way, you're never going to be able to get the saw in there. So I always do it on the outer edge. Most of the tools I have is Harbor Freight. I mean, they're cheap tools, but you know, to get me started, it's, you know, it was worth it for me. Okay. Pull that off. And that's it. So that's how I strip those down. So now everything is stripped out of the TV that I want, and I'm going to go ahead and do a final weigh-in of the copper, and then we'll do a bonus melt with some other copper stuff. I'm just going to throw that in my other bucket for right now. Okay, so we've got all the copper in the bin that we stripped off of that TV. Again, this came off the copper yoke. This different color right here came off the yoke as well. Then this was part of the degaussing cable and the power cord cable. Again, this circuit board, there's a little spool of copper right here that I'll get later on. I'm not going to add it into this because there's literally almost no weight on that. I took that copper band off already and threw it inside the bin over there. And I'm probably not even going to bother with this. I mean, I'm just going to leave it in there, and I'll just, you know, this piece of aluminum here, I'm going to leave it on there. It's just too much of a hassle to even get in there and try to get those screws, especially with that plug connector in the way. And then you have to cut the legs off, you know, where it's soldered in at the bottom. So it's really not worth it. I just leave it on there for the amount of metal that is. It's probably a fraction of a penny, if anything, of aluminum. So, you know, it's all about your time that you want to invest into it. If you're just looking to strip things down completely, just to get the metals and do what I do, then, you know, that's one thing. But if you're looking to make money, you're better off finding a scrapyard that takes, you know, low-grade circuit boards. It's all in the weight. This is probably worth about 10 to 15 cents a pound. And honestly, it's probably about, with this piece right here, it's probably about a pound, if I had to guess. So, but we're going to go ahead and do a weigh-in of the copper wire. I think it's set to pounds and ounces. I'm actually going to leave it at that right now. So it's already zeroed out to that bin. Throw that in. Already up to 3 ounces just for those two pieces. 8 ounces. Yep, so half a pound of copper from that television. Is it really worth it? It took me about 20 minutes to actually go through the whole process. It all depends. I mean, if the TV's huge, like a Sony TV, it's definitely worth it, especially if it only takes you 20 minutes to process everything. Because like I said earlier, you get about 3.5 pounds off of you know, a 27-inch TV. I can only imagine what a 32 you would get, probably about 4. But, you know, like I said, it's all based upon, you know, how much your time is worth to you. You know, I've got unlimited time during the week after work. I really don't have anything going on, so this is pretty much what I do. and I just got a half a pound of copper for my troubles. Am I happy with it? Not really. I wish it was a pound at least, because at least it would have been a little more worth it. But I still got some scrap that I could throw in my bins. You know, that insulated wire there, low grade. And, you know, that's about it. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll move on to the bonus melting video, and we'll cast a small copper ingot tonight. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and do the final part of this video. I've got 1900 grams of copper that I've stripped from, you know, wire and power cords. Most of it was from a 50-foot long extension cord that my father gave me. And it's seen better days, and that's the discolored wire that's in there. The bright and shiny copper, that was from other stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and melt this down, and I anticipate we're probably going to lose close to 100 grams. Which is roughly about 4 ounces, a little less than 4 ounces, I believe. And I'm going to lose the weight pretty much because it was dirty copper. I mean, there was still some insulation stuck to it, some adhesive and a little bit of plastic, and that'll burn off in the furnace, but that will make the weight a little bit smaller. So anyways, I'll go ahead and get this melted, and we'll see you in a minute. There's a bunch of big holes in this one. You can see right here. Probably gonna get stuck too. It didn't. That is one big ingot. The top has a lot of holes on it though. That's because there was a lot of flux still in there. So all the impurities went right to the top and caused the air bubbles. So, nothing really I could do about that. Copper is one of the hardest metals to cast with. I can't even grab onto this because it's so thick. That's literally almost an inch thick. Still boiling. Yeah, that's probably one of my thickest bars. Pretty close. You see all the holes in the top. Just the magma trails in there. I mean, you can grind those off and make it flat. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to wire wheel this and weigh it up. Alright. Thanks for looking. Okay, I got that bar all cleaned up. And it looks pretty good on the bottom side. Normally you get holes on this side. Unfortunately, I did a complete 180 and the holes are actually on the top where I actually poured it from. So I suspect there might have been a lot of flux inside the crucible still, and all the impurities were trying to escape once the copper was solidifying. Or I poured it way too fast, which honestly I think I might have poured it way too fast. But still not that bad considering. If I had a milling machine I could, you know, flatten this out completely and then it would look really nice. But I really don't have $2,000 right now to spend on one of those machines, so I'm just going to take it as is. So we'll go ahead and weigh this up real quick. Should still be set to grams. Now originally we started with 1,900 grams. After the cleanup, I honestly think maybe I didn't lose too much. I'm thinking maybe 10 or 15 grams, honestly. It still feels pretty heavy. Well, let's see what happens. Wow, I actually lost only 2 grams. Normally I've usually lose anywhere from 1 to 3%, but that's definitely less than 1%. It's not even a 0.5%, not even 1/4%. So I'm pretty happy with that, and that's a nice addition to the stack. So anyways, thanks for watching my video. I know it was very long and I apologize for that, but I wanted to show a complete scrap down of that television, and then I wanted to give you at least a little bonus footage for staying with the video so long. So anyways, thanks for watching.